loving me, I loving you. Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life, won't live in the past. All I wanna do now is making it last.
It's time for another conversation. I'm Noreen Daly. Welcome to Making It Last podcast, where it's all about helping us to have better relationships. Now, it's interesting that this particular individual is a regular. Very first episode and several episodes since, and here we are again. Hi, Eva. Hi, Eva.
Oh, you said hi. Hi.
Okay. You know? All right. So this is Eva Forde, author, life coach, YouTuber. And today we're going to be talking about what can be done to avoid the keeping score mindset in friendships. And let me give a context. Recently, I had a health scare. And in my mind, I do know there is something that is said that the world does not stop for your grief. And I am aware of that. However, in my mind, because of the relationships that I have with certain individuals, and I spoke to Eva about this, I thought that I would at least have seen them showing up at my house or something. And I think maybe because of that, inadvertently, I have started to reevaluate those particular friendships. Now, I mentioned this to Eva, and I said, this is something I actually want to talk about because I think it has to do with expectations, but then I'll get to that shortly. So, Eva, we're talking about what can be done to avoid a keeping score, because when you keep score, sometimes all you would end up seeing is just a negative and what it is that they're not doing. Your reactions.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, there are people who are naturally competitive. And I'm not saying that keeping score suggests that you're a competitive person, but it is in that realm. And, you know, when you're thinking about life is not a competition, right? Unless that's how you see things. And I think it's important for people to understand that you have choice in how you approach life and how you view situations. And when you make life a competition, therefore you have to keep score, right? Then it only disadvantages you because there are many different ways to keep score. And I guarantee you that people are contributing to you in ways that you would never know. Maybe they're defending you in rooms that you may never enter. Maybe they are, promoting you to other people. Like, you just don't know. And so keeping score is not healthy or beneficial. I mean, you can't, it's something you cannot win with.
Okay. You said something recently, some days ago, when you were talking about the whole idea of letting yourself off the hook. Talk about that a little bit, because I have a follow-up question for you.
Sorry, I didn't actually hear what you said. It's not sharp.
All right. So you said...
I didn't hear what you said.
All right. You said to me some time ago the whole idea of letting yourself off the hook.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a concept that has worked very well for me. And so it's something that I really encourage people to incorporate as well. And it just suggests that none of us are perfect. None of us. The least of us. That's not the right quote. My point is, none of us are perfect. So when you can decide to let yourself off the hook and give yourself a break, and then recognize that nobody else is perfect either. And there's something that my daughter and I like to say. We all like to say that we're doing our best. Everybody on the earth is just doing their best every day. It may not look like the best to you, but likely if you were in their shoes, you would say that, hey, you're doing your best. You're trying to be a good person. Or, yeah, you want to call somebody back, or yeah, you want to make dinner for your family. Like you want to do all these things, but we fall short inevitably. And so when you let yourself off the hook and just give yourself a break and say, look, I'm doing my best and they probably are too, then it really frees you up, not only for yourself, but it allows you to let go of the burden of carrying the expectation of what somebody else is supposed to do as well.
Okay. It's a nice segue into the question I'm about to ask, because if it is that you have a connection or you feel connected with somebody, isn't it expected that you will have expectations of each other?
Isn't it expected to have an expectation?
Yes. I know.
Oh, listen, I mean, we're born with expectations. I mean, babies cry because they're expecting to be fed or at least not be hungry, right? But I think as we grow and mature and understand the nuances of life and situations and personalities and circumstances, then, yeah, you can have an expectation, but oftentimes we don't articulate our expectations, and they're actually assumptions, right? So we're assuming a lot of things that were never articulated or clarified, and so the other person has no idea what their expectation is.
Okay.
And so when you make your assumptions, expectations that you want the other person to have or you expect them to have, again, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. But there is a way, however, to remedy this, because you can articulate your expectations. It doesn't necessarily need to be every single expectation. Okay, I expect you to call me if it's, after 10 o'clock and we haven't spoken all day. I mean, it doesn't have to be so nuanced, but it doesn't have to be so specific. But if to the extent that it is having a negative impact on your relationship or your ability to relate in an authentic, loving, genuine way, then yeah, I absolutely say voice your expectations. But take accountability that those are your expectations and not necessarily the other person's, expectation or job to meet your expectations. But when you do voice your expectations, then you give the other person some information to at least process and consider and say, okay, that's a fair enough expectation. Makes sense to me. I'm happy to oblige. And, you're right. Or, hey, that wasn't my expectation. Can we talk about this? Because actually, this is what I was expecting. That's different from you.
I know you've been enjoying the conversation, but we're going to take a little break and get a word from our sponsor.
Does your business lack branding? Having difficulty realizing your vision? Look no further. Splinth Brand Design Consultancy specializes in developing personal and business brands. Services include strategic management, website creation, social media branding, and more. Visit them online at www.wearesplinth.com. Splinth, the brand you need to succeed.
Okay. Which means we're really getting into giving people, quote unquote, tips in terms of what can be done to avoid that keeping score. So you said articulate the expectations. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, again, it starts with you. Every time you and I have a conversation, Noreen, I always bring up this point because I truly believe that any challenge, any difficulty, any discrepancy we have in life, anything that we're not feeling great about, it starts with us, because everything outside of us is exactly what we're talking about, is expectation. That's the only way you can be disappointed, right? If you expect something and it doesn't work out the way you want. So, I mean, the way to avoid it is to, again, start with yourself, assess, are your expectations realistic? Are they unrealistic? Are they based on your experiences, and could they be limited? Could you be limited in your expectations and in your view? Because often there's no right or wrong, right? It's just you and your perception and what you would like. So do a self-eval and and be okay with, being, what should I say? Be okay with smelling your own stink, as it were. That's just to say that,
Interesting
recognize that,
analogy.
just to say that, like, you're not perfect. And, sometimes for some of us, it's hard to admit that, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm in the wrong here, or maybe it's me.
Mm-hmm.
They say, the only constant in every failed relationship you've ever had is you.
True.
So, maybe it's you. So do that self-eval. And, in talking about avoiding keeping score, sometimes you can't avoid it, especially if it's a habit that you have. And sometimes then it's just about recognizing that, oh, hey, I'm keeping score. This is not a habit that I want to practice anymore. Let me, stop myself in my tracks and actually approach the person and have a conversation and find out what's going on their side, right? The other thing, like you said, let yourself off the hook, let other people off the hook.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another phrase that I like to use, which is give yourself permission. And I also say give people permission.
Oh.
So give yourself permission to be disappointed if you want to be disappointed. Give the other person permission to not be perfect. Give life permission to be, a bit messy, and give yourself permission to feel whatever feelings you're feeling and be okay with them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of times we're going through this life thing, and again, this word expectation, we have this expectation that it's supposed to work out for us, or it's not supposed to work out for us, and things are supposed to be hard, or things are supposed to be easy, whatever. But if you can this is where the faith comes in, right? And if you can kind of release all your expectations and just give yourself permission or give life permission to be messy and to not always be figure-outable, and just to kind of play in that space of uncertainty and work through it, then, you can also, in that context, give yourself permission to not keep score and to drop that score keeping and to drop that scorecard. I think it is, on some levels, fundamentally just making a decision that, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not going to do this, but this is not healthy for me or for our relationship. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to give myself permission to let this go.
Yeah. So you've said that we should articulate the expectations. We need to have that conversation, which can sometimes prove to be difficult. And of course, we need to self-evaluate. Is there anything else that you'd like to share in terms of helping just somebody listening right now to how to avoid that keeping score mindset in friendships? And not just friendships, just in relationships in general.
Yeah. And, I think what I had said initially is it's not a competition, right? Life is not a competition. Your relationships are not a competition. And, like I said, there are probably an infinite number of ways that the person that you're keeping score on has likely, bested you. And maybe if they were to keep score, maybe they're ahead, right? Everybody has different ways to keep score. And so, if you just recognize, I think ahead of time, that it's really futile and it's an exercise in futility, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, you have to cherish your energy, cherish your peace of mind enough not engage in those types of exercises that lead you nowhere.
Yeah.
And if you can, it's ahead of time to value your peace of mind so much that you're not going to engage in those things. I think it's stand a better chance of avoiding that type of behavior, avoiding keeping score, things that you can't win at. And so then you can invest time in the things that do make you fulfilled and do enrich your relationship, which is having challenging conversations sometimes, doing more personal development, because the better you know yourself,
right,
the better you are able to relate to others. So,
yes.
The more you can invest time in self-development things, reading, taking courses. I just published a video, as a matter, on my YouTube channel called How to Have Hard Conversations. And, again, the more that you can practice tools to help you have conversations and look inside yourself, the better you will be able to avoid keeping score.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Excellent note to end on. Thank you so much, Eva. I'm sure I'll have you again sometime soon.
All right.
Yeah. This was Making It Last podcast. I'm your host, Noreen Daly. Until next time.
Making it last is all I care to do. You loving me, I loving you. Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life, won't live in the past. All I wanna do now is making it last.